Help keep Kinks and Beats Daily alive with a $4 monthly contribution and receive exclusive bonus episodes as our thank you to you. Visit herohabit.com/shop for more details. Welcome to Kinks and Beats Daily. I'm your host, Tony Fry. This is episode 166. Thank you for downloading. If this is your first episode, welcome to the pod. This may not have been the one I would jump in on, but I'm glad you're here anyway. I wanted to remind people to go ahead and give me a call at 925-494-1739. And what I'm looking for is a Kinks, a Beatles, a solo artist, Ray, Dave, John Paul, George, Ringo, a song from any of these catalogs that you have changed your opinion on as you've gotten older. Maybe something you didn't like before that now you realize was fantastic, or vice versa, something you adored when you were a kid that now you look back on it and you're like, what did I see in Wild Honey Pie? I want to know what these songs are and how you've changed your opinion, maybe why you've changed your opinion, if there's a story behind it, or if it's just something that's kind of happened over the years. I'd like to know. So again, 925-494-1739. We're going to compile those into a bonus episode. And I've got at least one song that I know I'm going to talk about on that one. And some of the calls that come in, I'm sure, are going to be controversial. And I think that's going to be fun. So lay it on us. If you want to send separate voicemails for separate songs, that's fine. Or you can all throw it in a one long message. But I'd really like to have you call. Also, swing by our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/kinksandbeats, and hang out with us there. All right. Today we are talking about Between the Towers by Dave Davies. This was released October 27th, 2014 on his album Rippin' Up Time. This album was recorded about 9 years after Dave's stroke. And it came during a period of kind of inspiration for him. This was his third studio album that he released in 7 years. And I think, I don't have the discography in front of me, but if my memory serves, there's only 4 solo albums in the 35 or 40 years before this. So he's almost doubled his discography in a quarter of the time following his stroke. And he's touring and he's putting out live albums. I mean, he's a very busy solo artist at this point. And obviously I know part of the reason he wasn't releasing a lot of studio solo albums before that time was because he was in another band. But, still, it's still a very productive time for him. I don't know how to say this. I do not enjoy this song. And we knew going into this, there are too many songs in the Kinks and Beatles and solo catalogs. It'd be impossible to say you like every single one. And if you do say that, I call you a liar. And I would like you to call in and prove to me that you enjoy every single one. There's not a single song that you don't enjoy. It's a lie. And for me, this is one I just cannot get into it. Dave's voice is not in top form on this track, and it's kind of all over the place on the album in general. But for whatever reason, on this track, it's not great. And he seems to be playing on a cheap Casio keyboard that you used to get at Toys R Us, when I was a kid in the 80s. And the keyboard is shifting out of tune. There's an effect on it or something, and it's shifting out of tune. And that's not an effect I'd recommend for somebody who's struggling to stay on key. You don't sit there and go, all right, as a producer, you don't sit there and go, all right, well, he's having a hard time hitting the pitches on this song. Let's just make all the pitches ambiguous, right? Let's make this song completely absent of a key. So we have this out of tune Casio keyboard, and then we're introduced to a weird synthetic groove, if you can even call it that. It's tonal. It's not percussive. That kind of harkens back to some of the stuff like the Who were doing with their nonsense grooves, with the do 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 do. But again, it sounds like it's being played on cheap equipment. And like, this is Dave Davies, guys. This is one of the great guitarists of the rock and roll era. This is one of the most important members of the music community for the last 60 years at this point, 50 years at that point. He can't buy some like Roland equipment. He's got to be using this Casio single tone stuff. It's just, and I'm sure it's not cheap equipment, but it's just not well recorded and it's not well executed at all. There's some moments of guitar that sound pretty good, but in general, this sounds like a recording that was done in a couple takes without a click track. And there are some orchestrations on there, very faint in the mix, that maybe could have come up in the mix a little bit to support the vocals. But it's the kind of thing McCartney delves into every now and then. He's got a couple songs like this, that he goes into this experimentation. A lot of the McCartney album, for starters, and some of the Fireman stuff, he delves into this kind of experimentation with varying degrees of success. And this kind of feels like, the son of Temporary Secretary, but without any of the hooks or catchy melodies. Like there's nothing in this song that is getting stuck in your head. Even the first word in this song, he just says mind, and I can't pick the pitch or really tell what the word is. So on top of the poor execution, I don't think it's very well produced, and it's just not a good song. And if I'm wrong, you can call me. You don't need to call me for the little silly questions that I'm asking for bonus episodes. You can call me to tell me I'm wrong about this. If this is a song that you genuinely enjoy, and would like to defend it, you can call me at 925-494-1739, and we will play it on a future podcast. I look forward to the throngs of you defending this song. Doing this podcast has led me to a number of songs from Dave's solo career that I've quite enjoyed. And, we've covered some of them already where, I was surprised by how much I liked it, because he is, of all the people involved in the Kinks and the Beatles, he is the solo career I know the least about. And so for a lot of this, we are, and I suspect some of you as well, we are learning this music together. And there are moments on this album where the band, which is mostly Dave and occasionally his son, but a lot of Dave's doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this album, instrumentally. Some of the band stuff is fantastic, but this track is a momentum killer at best and an embarrassment at worst. You've got all these hard rocking tracks throughout the entire album, and then this, like, just dirge tempo, cheap sound equipment, plodding along kind of thing. It just kills the momentum. I wrote a review of this album for a website I used to work at years ago, obviously, at least 6 years ago when the album was released. And I spoke favorably about his playing, but his vocals sound every one of his 67 years with all the trials and tribulations that come along with that. And for a lot of the songs on this album, you can kind of give it a pass. I don't need it to be pitch perfect when you are rocking out. But when you're doing a slow, really exposed vocal like this, where there's not a lot going on musically, this is just not in his wheelhouse anymore. And frankly, I'm not sure it was ever really in his wheelhouse at this level. I don't know what point in his career he would have been able to pull this song off. Because even, you listen to his vocals on Strangers, even though that's a slow song with an exposed vocal, he still sings that like a rock singer. This one, I don't know that it would lend itself to that, but that's really neither here nor there. We'll discuss it more when we cover the entire album, which will be first a bonus episode for subscribers. Probably not soon, though. But the rest of this album is pretty solid rock, and this is by far the weakest song on the album. And I will go ahead and say it may be among Dave's weakest solo compositions ever. There are not a lot of songs in Dave's catalog that I like less than this. And I personally can't think of one yet, but, as we go through the whole thing, maybe I'll find one I like less, but this is right now definitely ranking at the top of my least favorite Dave Davies compositions. Which is saying something. I am a fan. If you're listening, Dave, I am a fan. Love your work. Would love to have you on the podcast. But, not every song is going to be for everybody. And maybe this one was a little bit, probably sounded real good in the studio, but I don't think it translates well on the album. So that's Between the Towers. Apparently, if you have nothing nice to say, you can talk for 10 minutes. All right. Again, give me a call, 925-494-1739. What song of the Kinks or Beatles universe have you changed your opinion on as you've gotten older? Email me, kinksandbeats@herohabit.com. Help keep this podcast afloat and ad-free by contributing $4 a month and getting bonus episodes, visiting herohabit.com/shop, and join our Facebook group, and go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review. And go listen to this song on Spotify, or pull up the CD if you own the CD. And if you feel like you can defend it, send me your defense. All right, I will talk to you guys next time, hopefully with a song I enjoy more, because I don't know that y'all enjoy listening to the songs I don't enjoy. But we're going to have to get through them. We're going through the entire catalog. We got to get through some stinkers from everybody. Every member of these bands has got some stinkers that we're going to talk about. All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks for downloading. This podcast is presented by the Hero Habit Podcast Network. Swing by HeroHabit.com today to comment on this episode and poke around our growing database of sports and pop culture news, reviews, and collectibles. HeroHabit.com. Collect your heroes.